The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Hambleton, everybody. It's been a while since we were in this part of North Yorkshire. The last time we touched Hambleton, we were near York in a place called Benningborough. Well, today we're on the edge of Thirsk, and behind me you can see Thirsk railway station. That's going to kick us off in the parish of CARLTON MINIOTT. CARLTON MINIOTT, peasant's farm belonging to the Miniott family. Hello North Yorkshire people, this week we're making a return to Hambleton as I take on a run of 5 tiny villages between Ripon and Thirsk. First up we have CARLTON MINIOTT. This was formerly known as CARLTON Islebeck and it lies on the A61 to the immediate west of Thirsk. The boundary between the two is practically the railway line, although theoretically that does belong solely to Thirsk. The village is mentioned in the Domesday Book simply as Carlton, but so too is the name Islebeck. At that time, the land was in the possession of Orm, son of Gamel, and it was later acquired by Hugh, son of Baldric. It then became the property of the Mowbray Barons. That's the same Mowbray Barons we met back in Haxey. In the early 14th century, the lands were purchased by John Miniott, and it's from him that the modern village gets its current suffix. The Miniotts didn't own the village for long. By the early 15th century, possession had moved on to the Markenfields and then the Pigotts, and several other families such as the Metcalfes, Fokinghams, Hussies, Lamplews, Cloughs and Bells. As well as the railway station, CARLTON MINIOTT has a post office, a playing field, a school, 2 churches and 2 pubs. There's also a small holiday lodge site and a fishing lake. What makes this one stand out, however, is a garage. Here in CARLTON MINIOTT, it's where battered old K6 phone boxes, the red ones we see so many of, came to be restored. Let's check it out. We're kicking things off today with the railway line that almost forms the boundary between CARLTON MINIOTT and Thirsk. I say almost because it's not an exact science. The boundary is actually just west of Thirsk railway station and therefore it doesn't belong to CARLTON MINIOTT. Even so, it's close enough that it should count for this episode, so it's going to. Thirsk railway station is one of the many on the channel's favourite railway line. Yes, it's back. Hello again, East Coast Main Line. It's been ages. Here at Thirsk Station, the ECML has 4 tracks, but only the outer 2 have platforms. The platform faces serving the innermost pair of tracks were removed in the 1970s in preparation for the high-speed main line that now runs through Thirsk. This stretch of the line was built by the Great North of England Railway, and most of it was authorised in 1837 before being formally opened 4 years later. Thirsk, when it originally opened, was known as Newcastle Junction. In 1933, Britain's first route-setting power signal box, which used a switch panel rather than a lever frame, opened here at Thirsk. It formed a template for many similar future features on the nation's railway network. Thirsk signal box itself eventually closed in 1989. And Thirsk Station has a link to a famous writer, the novelist J.L. Carr. He was born in 1912 in one of the railway cottages, and his father was the station master. He attended primary school in the village, and we'll see where the modern school is in a bit. Next up is the Vale of York pub, an easy walk from the station. It's not that long ago that a walk from the station to this pub would have left you a little disappointed. The Vale of York had been closed since January 2014. It appears though that now it's reopened, and inside you'll find quite a modern building. The main bar is one room that's been knocked through and opened out and comfortably decorated. There's also an outside drinking area to the front. Carlton's other pub is the Dog and Gun, but that's a fair walk away, around 1.5 miles from the Vale of York. It's practically at the other end of the village. That's because CARLTON Miniottt stretches for nearly 2 kilometres from Thirsk station west along the A61. Most of the other amenities and features are at the western end of the village, but there is one more up this end. That would be CARLTON Miniottt Post Office, which has been run by the same family since 1955. It's recently been judged as the best in Yorkshire. A shop was first launched in CARLTON Miniottt 56 years ago, and it became a great asset, particularly as there was never a delivery fee charged to elderly residents for their groceries. The owners recently received a glass trophy from the Yorkshire Independent Growers Association for its superb service to customers and excellent range of products. Okay, there's a parish notice board here outside the shop, and this will be new to people in Thirsk. If you've not seen me before, this is what I do when I visit a place. One of these cards gets left on the notice board. So we'll do that right now. There we go, CARLTON Miniottt in the books. Now, next we're going to take a drive around a housing estate that's at this sort of eastern end of CARLTON Miniottt, and then we'll go down to the western end and see some of the other features this place has got. Before we leave this eastern end behind, let's have a bit of a drive. Although most of the village's main features are in the west, it's here in the east where most of the population live. This housing estate is where you'll find the majority. This also gives us a chance to talk more about CARLTON's history. It used to be known as CARLTON Islebeck, and if you delve through the parish records, you'll find both terms mentioned. It was once owned by the powerful Mowbray barons, but the suffix Miniottt is a reference to a 14th century landowner. Islebeck was a separate settlement, or so it seemed. In 1284, Islebeck's principal tenants were John and Henry de Carlton. It isn't until 1301 that the Miniottt name appears. John Miniottt is known to have been in possession of the manor in 1327. Very little is known of the Miniottt family, other than that they gave the name to the village, of course. They weren't here all that long. In the early 15th century, CARLTON Miniottt was divided and passed into the families of Markenfield and Piggott. From then on, several families all had a go here. Names such as Fokingham, Hussey, Metcalfe and Bell have all been associated with the village. Don't be surprised if we mention them again in future episodes in some of the neighbouring settlements. So yes, there are definitely two separate sections to CARLTON Miniottt. You've got the western section, which is where we're heading in a moment, and the eastern bit where the train station is. And in between, you've got pretty much nothing for a stretch. It's even a 40 limit as opposed to a 30. You've also got this, the playing field, which is where we are now. And this is the start point for our main walk. And all we're going to do is walk from here down to CARLTON Garage. And that is the most important part, as far as I'm concerned, of this entire episode. You're going to love what's at CARLTON Garage, let me tell you. Let's get going. The rest of the village we'll explore on foot. Our next landmark is the school. This is a small school as educational buildings go. It used to be called CARLTON Miniottt Community Primary School, but it's now alternatively titled CARLTON Miniottt Primary Academy. This school is part of the Elevate Multi-Academy Trust, and it's within the catchment area for Thirsk School and Sixth Form College. Apart from that, relatively little is recorded about the history of schools in CARLTON. Okay, it's been a while since we've seen one of these things. By the side of the road here, we've got a turnpike stone. There we go. This one tells us we are 9 miles from Ripon and 2 from Thirsk. St Lawrence's Church was originally built as a chapel of ease to St Mary's Church in Thirsk. It's not known exactly when it was built, but records show it was definitely in existence by 1621. It was rebuilt between 1895 and 1896 by Charles Hodgson Fowler, incorporating some decorated wood from the old church. It's remained essentially unaltered since, and it was Grade 2 listed in 2005. Primarily, it's built of red brick with stone dressings and a red tile roof. It consists of a nave, a south porch and a chancel with a north vestry. On the junction of the nave and the chancel is a spirelet with a wooden bellcote. The porch has a stone front and buttresses rising to an apex with a crucifix, and it contains a doorway with a 4-centred arch. Windows-wise, the east window depicts the crucifixion of Jesus and a war memorial. Hodgson Fowler's decorative scheme survives largely intact, including the painted barrel-vaulted ceiling and wooden panelling on the lower part of the walls and the pews. The pulpit is from the previous church. CARLTON Miniottt has 2 churches. We'll see the other one in a moment. Between the two is the second pub. This is the Dog and Gun, and despite efforts from the locals, this has gone to the dogs. In April this year, the owners of the Dog and Gun submitted plans to convert the pub into a family home. They claimed the pub had been struggling commercially since 2021, citing factors such as increased running costs, changing drinking habits, and the impacts of the COVID pandemic. It's a familiar story. The proposals were fought by the villagers who were desperate to see it stay, simply because it's one of the only remaining facilities for the community. A petition calling for the building to remain as a pub has been signed by at least 140 residents. 7 people wrote objections to the plans, stating the pub had been economically important to the area and regularly used for christening parties and funeral teas, as well as a venue for pub games, quizzes and live music. Losing the Dog and Gun would mean no communal venue at all for CARLTON Miniottt. It's already lost its village hall, that was sited close to the church. Now we have the Evangelical Church. In January 1969, a group of 4 young couples started meeting together for Bible study and prayer at Hall Farm in nearby Topcliffe. One of their number, Reverend Peters, was invited to lead them as minister. Now that was all well and good, but Hall Farm's front room was small and often full to bursting. In 1976, they bought this building here in CARLTON Miniottt to alleviate the issue. As the church grew, an elder and deacons were appointed to support the reverend in the teaching and administration of the church. The building was extended to the front and rear, providing a second meeting room, an entrance hall, a kitchen, and some toilet facilities. In 2002, a second reverend, Dr. Jonathan Bass, became its second minister and continued the work of regular preaching and teaching from the Bible. He would go on to teach abroad, mainly in the Far East. Today, its minister is Reverend Richard Wigham, a former pastor of a similar church in Lantrysant, Wales. In 2019, the church celebrated its 50th anniversary. Okay, from this point onwards, we've only really got one landmark left, and that is CARLTON Garage. Now, I've been looking forward to this, and you, I think, will enjoy what I'm about to show you. Now, without question, the standout feature for me in CARLTON Miniottt is this. This is CARLTON Garage, but ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to its other use. This was, until recently, a red telephone box graveyard. Despite that ominous name, this isn't where phone boxes come to die. In fact, it's quite the opposite. This nostalgic location once showcased the history of public telephone boxes in Britain. Designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, the iconic British red telephone box lined the streets of the UK, as we know. As technology advanced and mobile phones became more widespread, public telephone boxes became obsolete and were eventually removed from city streets. However, in the 1980s, British Telecom began relocating some of them from cities to rural storage areas. One such storage area is here in CARLTON Miniottt, where hundreds of decommissioned phone boxes are found in various stages of decay. The site is part of an Imperial service station which once served as a maintenance facility for British Telecom. It's all run by one man, Mike Shawes, who took over the responsibility of spending the best part of his career restoring them to their former glory. Now, the phones may no longer ring, but until his retirement in 2015, the boxes were given a new lease of life. He spent over 100 hours stripping and repainting them with their classic red shade. Once restored, the booths were then sold. They featured in art installations around the world, as well as being used as greenhouses, defibrillator cabinets, tiny libraries, and there's even one in Brighton that's now a coffee shop. So there's no phone boxes here at the moment because obviously it's not in operation anymore, but you can see, I think, if that van's not in the way, the tops of some post boxes as well. So obviously there's some kind of restoration project for them too. So yeah, Carlton Garage, interesting place, right? To finish with, we've got a little bit of driving to do. We're off to see Woodland Lakes Lodges, which is a large holiday complex. It's one of the most popular holiday locations in these parts. The project started as a scheme for 19 log holiday lodges and grew through 2 phases, adding 122 further lodges, reception cabins and laundry cabins. Today, Woodland Lakes Lodges is 5-star rated and has a restaurant, a bar and fishing lakes. The lodges are set in a picturesque location between the North York Moors and the Yorkshire Dales, and seeing as they're only a short drive away from both Thirsk and York, you can see why this is such an ideal spot. A brand new multi-million-pound leisure centre is set to open here soon too. That will boast an indoor swimming pool, a spa, a second restaurant and a soft play area. The date of the centre's grand opening is yet to be confirmed though. The new leisure facility will provide around 25 new permanent jobs in the area, offering employment in the growing leisure and tourism industry. The Woodlands Lake Resort can now offer an experience in line with Copper Green's sister sites at Piper Dam near Dundee, Kenwick Park in Lincolnshire and Clumber Park Lodges in Nottinghamshire. And we are done with CARLTON Miniottt. To finish with, we're driving through Busby Stoop, which we will see again in a future episode, albeit briefly. 1 down, 4 more to go up here this week. Join me tomorrow for a much smaller village just down the road. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.